Hello and welcome to Introduction to Externship. My name is Mr. Wyatt. I am the Externship Coordinator at Dorsey School's Madison Heights campus, and I am here to give you a little introduction to what externship is and how you can be successful on externship, and hopefully answer some of the questions that you may have about externship. So normally we would come into your classroom and I would give this presentation, but of course with everything being virtual, we've put together this recording for you. So hopefully most of your questions are going to be answered through it. And any questions that you do have, feel free to reach out to me. My email is right down here on the bottom, and you can contact me here anytime, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions that you have. So let's get started. Okay, so externship is, of course, at the end of your program with Dorsey, and this is for our medical billing students, our dialysis tech students, and our medical assistant students. And externship is a total of 180 hours, which is done over 6 weeks, and this comes out to about 32 hours per week. And it's very important, of course, that if you are working, whether part-time or full-time, that your current job knows about your externship requirement, that they know when the dates are, and that you've worked it out with your current employer that you're going to be available to put these hours in. Unfortunately, there's no way to do it with any less hours per week, and finding a site that can acquire you on the weekends or in the evening, while not impossible, can be difficult. So it's really best to have an open and clear schedule for your externship and be committed to it. And of course, this hopefully is going to turn into a permanent job for you. So hopefully the dedication and the importance you place on it will lead to a permanent opportunity for you. Externship, of course, requires good attitude and excellent attendance. So this is very, very important. During externship, you will be watched like a hawk by your supervisor at your externship site. You're really going to stand out a lot more than the other employees that have been there for a long time, because you're new and because you're learning. They're watching you very closely. They're thinking about whether to hire you at the end of externship. And it's so important that you show up on time every time. I tell all my students to get there early, to get there before the supervisor even shows up to unlock the doors for the day. Be there waiting, because it shows your anticipation, it shows your excitement for the job. It shows them that you are there ready to work and ready to learn. And a willingness to learn is what's going to take you so far in externship, because at this point, you're new to this. You're just practicing your skills. You're going to make mistakes on them. You're not going to be perfect at blood draws yet. You're not going to be perfect at billing yet. You're not going to be perfect at any of these things yet. We're of course going to prepare you to be the best you can be, but when you start to put these skills into practice in the real world, it really takes some time to fully get the hang of it. So what's really going to help you during externship is the willingness to learn and get better at those skills, and just to have a good attitude. If you get upset about something, I always tell my students you have to learn to be upset in a professional way. It's okay to be upset, but you have to do it professionally. You have to give people the benefit of the doubt. You have to take a breath. You got to gain your composure and stay humble. Admit that maybe you were wrong about something, maybe you misunderstood something, and always be willing to make things better and willing to learn. If you can do that, you will go far with externship, no matter whether your skills are really good right now or they need some help. If you have a good attitude, you're going to go far. And of course, at the end, you're going to be evaluated by your externship supervisor. There are a list of a number of skills that you will be evaluated on, and you'll get that information before you go out on externship. But for our MAs, they include things, again, like vitals, phlebotomy. For our medical billers, we throw coding in there and posting payments and things like that. So you'll get to see all of those, but that essentially is how you get your grade, is from your supervisor at the end of externship. Okay, so what are some things that you can do now to prepare for externship? Of course, we've already talked about letting your current employer know that you're going to need to be available for 32 hours per week for externship to hit that 180 mark in over 6 weeks. But here are some other things that you can do. Some of our sites, not all of them, but some of them require you to pass a drug screen. This is true if you are a dialysis tech. You will be required to pass the drug screen. Some of our medical assistants will be, and occasionally some of our billers might even be asked to do that. And if you're not asked to do it at externship, you may be asked to do it as a pre-hire requirement. So if this is going to be an issue for you, please reach out to me. We have some resources that can help. No judgment, no questions asked, but we want to make sure that you are prepared to be successful. So make sure that you are able to pass a drug screen test. And I just want to throw this out there too. I know that marijuana has become more legalized in the last couple of years, but many of these hospital sites and doctors' offices, they won't accept that. They won't allow you to even have prescription marijuana. They won't hire you. Okay, and marijuana too is one of those things that stays in your system for a very long time. Okay, it can stay in your system for over a month at a minimum. So it's very important that you make sure you've got things together and you're ready to pass that drug screen test. And again, we're happy to help you if you need any help in that area. The next thing that I want to encourage everybody to get is a copy of their immunization record. This is required for our dialysis tech students, and you're going to keep hearing me say that. Our dialysis tech students have some higher requirements than some of our other programs, but it's important for everybody to know where your immunizations are, because some hospital sites, some businesses require that certain immunizations be up to date. Some of those immunizations include your tetanus shot, the flu shot if it's seasonal flu season. Some of them include MMR, chickenpox. Okay, if you haven't had that before when you were a kid. So it's important right now, not necessarily to go ahead and go get the shots right now, but to find out where you stand, find out where you're at. So ask your doctor, ask your health department for what's called your MICR report. And this is a record of all the immunizations you've had since you were a child. And like I said, any doctor, any county health department will be able to give this to you. You want to make sure that you set aside immunization money. Once you find out what immunizations you still need, you want to set aside money for that just in case. Some of these immunizations are covered by insurance. Some of them are not. Maybe you don't have insurance. Those are things that you need to think about and consider. You also, if you are a dialysis tech student, you want to make sure that you have a doctor's appointment for a physical and a TB test. You're going to need this 1 month before you go out on externship. So it's important to know when your externship date is and to go ahead and schedule that doctor appointment. Especially now during COVID, it can be very, very difficult to get an appointment in with your doctor. So many doctors are backed up, and a lot of appointments are done virtually now. If you are a medical assistant student, you may or may not need a physical or TB test. It all depends on the site that you go. So for our medical assistants, I would say go ahead and get a copy of your immunization report to find out where you're at. But as far as getting any immunizations or getting a physical or a TB test, let's wait and find out where you're going first. But for our dialysis tech students, you are absolutely going to need these things. So you're absolutely going to need that appointment 1 month before your externship to get your immunizations up to date, to get your physical, to get your TB test. Our billing students usually don't have to worry about this stuff as much. Not impossible, but usually, unless they're going to a hospital site like Beaumont or McLaren, they don't have to worry about it quite as much. Okay, so what are some other things you can do to prepare? You are going to need a professional resume. If you don't have one already, there is, of course, a class that's part of your program where you make one of these with Mr. Lozelle, but if you haven't had that class yet, or you won't have that class for some reason, it's important that you get together with Career Services so that we can help you come up with a professional resume. This is how I'm going to introduce you to the employer that's going to be your site for externship. So it's very important that you have this and it looks good. Feel free to, you can even today go ahead and email me what you have, and my email of course is right there on the screen, and I would be happy to take a look at it and offer any suggestions that I can. Another thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to set aside some money for professional dress and for scrubs. So some of our sites may ask you to do an interview, and of course you want to make sure that you're professionally dressed for that interview. The Career Services Department does have a closet of professional clothes that you can borrow for interviews, so feel free to reach out to me and we'll be happy to set you up with that. But for the most part, after the interview, you're going to be wearing scrubs to the externship site. And some places have scrubs that are certain colors. You know, if you go to Beaumont, they have one color. If you go to McLaren, they have another color. So your Dorsey scrubs may or may not work depending on where you go. So be prepared just in case to buy yourself an extra pair of scrubs. You want to make sure you have some professional references. They may ask who can vouch for you when you do your interview. So you want to make sure that you have some professional references and, you know, find out who those people are now, because you don't want to do that last minute. You want them to have plenty of time to know that they are your professional reference and to be expecting a call regarding you. Okay, the Career Service Departments, one of the things that we do to help you prepare is we help with mock interviews. So I encourage you, feel free anytime to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to go through a mock interview with you so that you are prepared for the real one when it comes time for it. And lastly, another thing that you can do is create a thank you card or a thank you letter. And these don't have to be anything fancy. You can go to the dollar store and buy a package of a few thank you cards. That's perfectly fine. This is just something that helps you to stand out from the other candidates that are being interviewed. Not everybody does this. Not everybody sends a thank you card. A lot of people kind of consider it old-fashioned, but it's something that I still think really goes a long way and helps you to really stand out among the other candidates. Another thing you want to do is you want to really pay attention to your social media. And my advice honestly would be to make your Facebook, your Instagram, whatever it is you're using, to make it private. And if it's not private, to make sure that it is completely cleaned up. I'm talking, you have to be really careful with things that are political, really careful with things that are religious, things that are very opinionated, things that make you seem like you're, you know, super into partying or, you know, anything like that. You have to be really, really careful. So I would encourage you just to make your social media clean and also to make it private. And I would encourage everybody to create a professional email. Okay, your Dorsey email expires 1 year after you graduate, so you're not going to have access to that forever. And you want to have an email, you know, something at Gmail, Yahoo, something like that, that's very simple. Just your first initial, last name, maybe the number 1 if you have to throw a number in there because your name's taken, but something very, very professional. We don't want to see an email with a nickname or anything like that when sending your information to an employer, okay? Another thing you want to take care of is your background. Some of our employers do background checks before you can go to their site. for externship and certainly before you get hired. This is basically true for all of our programs, for dialysis tech, for MA, for our billing students. All of you have a very high chance of having a background check at some point. So if you know of anything that's on your record, hopefully you were honest about that during the admissions process. But if you know of something that is still on there, please find out what that is and find out if it can be expunged or cleared from your record. And if you need any help with that, of course, feel free to send me an email. But we want to make sure that if there is anything that can be cleared from your record, that it's cleared as soon as it possibly can be. Okay, another thing that you can do is make sure that you are staying on top of your financial aid. And what I mean by that is staying up to date on payments, making sure you don't owe any balances. Very important because this is something that's going to be checked before you go out on externship, and you won't be allowed to go on externship if you owe money or you're behind on anything. So if you don't know where you stand, I encourage you to reach out to Wendy. She is our financial aid representative, and she'll be able to tell you exactly where you're at and help make sure that you are clear and ready to go for externship. Also encourage you to speak with Dr. Riyad. You've probably already had him for a class or two. He handles our certification, so becoming certified after you graduate is a great step and will make you more marketable, and it just kind of shows the employer that you decided to go the extra mile. Not only you graduated, but you also became certified. So that is something that you want to connect with Dr. Riyad about so you can start studying and make sure that you're prepared to take your certification test after you graduate. Our last slide, kind of the fun part, everybody is excited about where they're going to go and wondering where they're going to go, and you actually can have a huge say in that. You can start looking now for a possible externship site. So our dialysis techs, it's a little different. You guys go to, we partner with DaVita and place you there, so it's a little bit different for you guys. But for our medical assistants and our medical billers, you can go somewhere that you have in mind, as long as that place has somebody that can teach you, that can proctor you, and also as long as they can meet our requirements for the skills that you have to learn and how many hours that you need each week. As long as they meet those requirements, we can work with some place that you have in mind and send you there. So if you have anywhere in mind, please feel free to reach out to me, and I would be happy to see if that's going to be an option for you.